Espinoza, who's going to talk about the erotic intelligence of plants. Please welcome her. Thank you.
Welcome. Well, I had some juicy pictures, a lot of sex with different beings and the spirits were like, no, they're gonna have to see it in their own time, in their own way. And I'm curious actually how many of you have had an encounter with a being in the subtle realm, and a sexual encounter. Okay. How many would like and welcome an encounter? And one thing that I've learned on this journey is that there is both, no, there's both the light and the shadow of sexuality, and I've been immersed in the shadow realm for the last 3 years. There have been some light, but it's been really tricky navigating through. And I'm sure a lot of you have had maybe a similar experience. How many of you have connected with the Mamacita Ayahuasca? I know you have. How many have been with a plant on a plant diet? Huh, interesting. Good. So I guess I'll start off with why plant teachers and eroticism. For me, I started this journey 7, 8, 9 years ago because I was working at BC Women's Hospital in Vancouver as a perinatal counselor, and I found that we would sit in circles in these case conferences, professionals with dear hearts wanting to help and serve women who had sexual abuse trauma, mental health challenges, addictions to various substances. And we'd sit around in these hour meetings, and by the end of it, it was sort of guesswork in terms of how to approach women in a holistic way. And I worked there for 7 years, and I felt that there's another pathway. And I was encouraged and slightly shoved by ayahuasca to learn what other way is there. And so I journeyed to Peru, and I was involved in a 3-month plant diet in isolation. And I'll just briefly describe what a plant diet is. In the vegetalismo tradition in Peru, they have these practices, it's plant diets, and basically there's very strict food intake, no sexual stimulus with oneself or others, and traditionally it was done in isolation in the jungle. And the teacher that I'm connected with basically went out into the jungle for a year with a knife and I think maybe, I don't know, his shirt and pants, and that's it. And he learned with the plants. And so not all of us can do that, or we're not called to that by the plants. So there's this new concept that began some years ago called social dieting. And that's where we follow the same restrictions, but we're able to stay in our home community. And it requires some changes in our life, but we can work or go to school and raise children, whatever we're involved in. And this way of learning with the plants, Natalie mentioned it before, it is true. If you want to learn, you go where they are and you immerse yourself in their environment, and you change your way of seeing and listening, and it requires a huge shift in terms of being able to pick up that subtle vibration. And I'm curious how many of you here have had songs or messages coming through, not ayahuasca, but other plants that you have spent time with. Good. Some of you, yeah. So there's various forms of this practice. I only have experience within the vegetalismo tradition. And basically what happened was that I went down there, and for my PhD research question, I asked the plants, what do you want me to focus on? And so I was thinking, you know, something cool. I don't know what, like, who knows? I thought Susanna Busto's topic on icaros and sound, music, was pretty amazing. But that's not what happened. I was dieting ayahuasca, tobacco, and Pinot Blanco. I don't know, has anyone dieted those? And basically I was purging every day for 3 months, and it was very difficult. And being in the jungle, I just wasn't used to it, and it was basic survival every day. Like, I just was praying each hour, you know, that I could hang on to something, and sometimes I wasn't able to hang on to anything, and, you know, not be eaten by the ants, the ant raids that came in. But so basically what happened was I asked through Dreamtime to have guidance on what my research question would be, and I was dieting tobacco, and that's a wonderful plant for Dreamtime. And I was given the message, well, shown where I was at, I guess, in terms of my sexuality, and shocking. So I saw that I was having sex with a partner on a round circular stage with the Coca-Cola banner around it in the middle of New York Times Square. And so that was a shock, and I resisted it. There's no way I'm not focused on sex. And no, it grabbed me and took me for a ride. And so that's why I focused on this topic. And the beauty of not having slides is that I'm completely off track. And it's interesting to see how freeform flows. I wanted to cover some other definitions just so that we're all on the same page. So I talked a little bit about plant diets, and basically they're a bit different in vegetalismo because they're opened in an ayahuasca ceremony and closed in a ceremony, and they're held by a vegetalista, so someone who's skilled working with plants. And there's different types of diets. There's healing diets, so if someone has cancer, maybe some of you know people have gone down to South America who have like a physical imbalance, and they went for healing, and so there's plant diets for that, and the vegetalista will pick the plant depending on what needs to be focused on. There's also apprenticing diets, and they can be a year long, 2 years, 5 years, depending on the tradition. The healing diets can range also, like a week to 3 months to 6 months. The idea is that when Natalie mentioned be with the plants and they will teach you, that the longer you can immerse yourself in that quiet meaning, so you can listen to all the sounds of the other beings, the more that you will learn. And so for apprenticing diets, it's often at least a year, and you diet for the rest of your life, basically. So ayahuasca is one of the plant teachers. I feel like ayahuasca gets a lot of coverage. And so for my research, I also wanted to bring in the other plants Does anyone know Ayahuasca or Ayahuasca? There's so many beautiful brothers and sisters. And so with the research that I conducted, I interviewed women around North America. So it took me a year to gather the data and lots of travel expenses. And these women had been in at least 30 ayahuasca ceremonies and dieted plants at least 3 months. Some of these women were dieting plants for 5 years off and on with more than 10 different plants. It's absolutely astonishing. They're very skilled in facilitating circles and diets, etc. So I asked them the question, what were your erotic experiences in ceremony, ayahuasca ceremonies and plant diets? And there are 9 core themes, and I'll just list them. I apologize, you're gonna have to listen to me really carefully because they're all listed there. Purification and support for reproductive health, increased sensory awareness, transformation of relationship with self, empowered decision-making, enhanced intimacy with others, enhanced cognitive awareness, connecting with subtle energies, and connecting with God. The core theme that included all of those categories was healing sexual trauma. And it just happened that percentage-wise, how would this work? Maybe 75% of the women had a history of sexual trauma.
What percentage?
Like 75-80% by chance. So there was a reason, obviously. And I have to say, after defending this dissertation, I have to say up front that this was not a clinical study proving anything. This is just what the women found and the stories that they shared. There is enough support that I gathered that these plants, and local plants as well, I forgot to mention that we can diet local trees, sage, willow, here, and that I feel that there is another way for healing women's reproductive imbalances as well as healing sexual trauma. So, in the physical category, one woman said, and pretend that we're in a sharing circle at the end of like a ceremony, and so I'm the woman speaking and you just listen to her. I had an ovarian cyst when I was young, and then another one when I received information during a ceremony that there was something growing on my ovary that was confirmed by an ultrasound. Surgery was recommended, but I decided that I needed to work with plants. Ayahuasca was calling me. And just a note that there were several women who reported having an ovarian cyst, then dieted at least 3 months, and then the cyst was gone. And this was also the case of infertility, irregular menstruation cycles, menstrual cramping. One woman talked about dieting chai. Has anyone connected with chai? And she felt that this plant spirit helped her through delivering her baby. So it's just like these plants were supporting all the reproductive areas in a woman's life. In the emotional category, one woman talked about transforming relationship with self. And she says, oh, this is the chai woman. Chai was a protector and taught me how to be spiky on the outside and strong within myself. That was my challenge in life in terms of being pushed around and indecisive. So I feel chai was preparing me to be a mom and be solid within myself, to be more assertive and have purpose in my life. The plants taught me discernment. And another woman says, I saw the key of being my own gatekeeper and in what and who I allowed to be part of my healing. It's been a hard lesson in how to trust appropriately and who to trust. I've learned to trust my own intuition over other people. In the mental category, one woman spoke about enhanced awareness. And she says, before I started dieting, I had more partners than I want to mention. It was impulsive in the language of seeking. I think my sexuality before was evidence of how deep my sickness was, but also evidence of my desire to be healthy. I'm so much more aware of what it actually means to exchange energy. I've abused sexual energy so much and for so long that I'm totally not interested until I know I'm going to be totally clean with it. How is everyone? Are you okay? Okay. Okay. Let's see. So the categories of sexual behavior, sexual identity, the women reported really deep transformational changes, and trying to pick out the most, let's see, where are we? Sexual identity. One woman says, as I empower myself by being aware of my inherent nature, a shift from domination to cooperation, a shift into fun-loving experiences of sex that is possible instead of it being an act of submission. I get to leave behind the garbage that I was a whore if I enjoyed sex. And another woman says, I'm a sexual being whether I'm having sex with someone or not. I don't need to feel like I'm excluding it, but that I know it's my nature. So with the plant diet, what I also chose to do was a year-long diet with Coca. And basically, it's encouraging us to learn about sexuality in a different way because we're not able to touch ourselves or other people. And touch is very limited with another human. So no hugging, not going to big parties. So it's very isolating, and you learn about energy. You have to, in some ways, learn about energy in a different way, sexual energy. And one woman spoke about the erotic intelligence of plant teachers, saying, it's not like sex of how we normally think about sex. It's like plants growing out of my uterus and giving birth from my belly button. Ayahuasca doesn't come to me in a mental image, but there's a powerful force that is erotic. For me, all plants have a sensuous quality. And one of my questions was, why these plant teachers? Most of the women that I interviewed had been to breath work and psychotherapy and dance movement and yoga, everything. And they felt like these plant teachers were a beautiful complement to what they had already done. So this is not just, this is the answer. It's like everything together. This was a piece that, in the puzzle, that fit for them. And I was curious about why. And one woman says, plant teachers are special because many are very feminine and motherly, so it feels good for women. Herbs have been used for a long time, and many plants are used for reproductive organs. The plants are very subtle, and I find it easier to integrate, especially if there's deep trauma. It's not shocking, but instead gentle. Another woman says, one of the deepest wounds I have is in the area of sexuality. I can go deeply to explore my wounds, and the plants help me take me to that place. They sit with me and witness me. They hold that space for me to explore, and there's no judgment. Four things that I would love for you to remember from this very brief talk. This is a 7-year journey that I'm squishing into 20 minutes. There's so much more I'd love to share with anyone who's interested. And just a other note that the shadow side of sexuality, both in ceremonies and plant diets, came up, and I will be focusing more on that at the MAPS conference in April, an hour-long focus on that. So 4 things that I would love for you to reflect on. The first thing, The erotic intelligence of plant teachers connects us with expanded reality of sexuality. There's some sort of higher dimensional mating that's taking place. 2, worldly and cosmic realms are interdependent and co-evolving. So this is something that Natalie brought up, that plants are waiting for us to connect with them. Not only waiting, but longing for that connection. And together, we can learn. And, yeah. I find it interesting that I feel like the plant teachers are actually guidance counselors for us. So instead of like our human relationships, that they're counseling us in terms of how to relate to other beings and other dimensions. There a pathway, purification, and then a pathway to these other beings and energies. 3, the cosmic orgasm fuels a creative power that can be channeled to be in service. So many of the women spoke about the process of purifying their physical bodies, their mental activities, and the mental looping that we get through, and their relationships with family, friends, romantic partners, and their emotional aspects of their lives, and then their spiritual practices. So once they were going through these shifts and greater awareness, they made major shifts in their life that were in better alignment to be themselves truthfully and then be in service in their communities. And fourthly, sexual spiritual vitality, erotic vitality, will liberate us to a new consciousness. So what Natalie was saying is what the other women were saying in terms of the plants working with the heart energy, and that the heart is the portal to the 5th dimension, which is where we're all evolving to. And questions?
I wanted to thank you for sharing the vision that you had of the initial erotic image when you were trying to plan out your dissertation. And I know it's very personal, but could you speak to a little bit more of what you discovered of the imagery from that vision?
From the Coca-Cola and the New York Times Square.
Only if you feel comfortable, I don't put you on the spot.
Yes, much. Who else wants to hear about that? I want to make sure there's enough interest. Well, first of all, okay, why not? So I learned that I had experienced sexual abuse trauma in my childhood, and I realized that I was acting for years as a sex addict, and I was highly sexually active. I'm not saying that it wasn't dangerous, but I was jumping between people and mixing energies and creating so much drama. And I actually, this is how it was. I was like a, how do you say, like a female, like black widow? Are they the ones that eat the... I would lure the men.
Like a femme fatale.
Yeah, and then I'd have the condoms like taped to my bedpost so I could just whip them out when I needed. It was just, I mean, maybe, do other people do that? I don't know. Is that normal? I just felt like after some years that it's good safety technique. That this wasn't, it wasn't in alignment with how I wanted to be sexually. Mm-hmm. I was seeking definitely from outside, and there's never enough, right, to fill you up. So, okay, so that's what I was seeing in terms of me having sex in New York Times Square, that it was showy, and it was superficial. And how interesting that the plant chosen for me was Coca, which is used as an aphrodisiac. And so I got to learn all about that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. Like, so after the diet, what was it like for women to enter back into like actual partnerships with humans on this mission?
Yeah. So the woman with the who died in Ayahuasca, she had the ovarian cyst. She was amazing. She actually closed her diet earlier so she could have sex with this new partner that she was completely in love with. And basically, they would just have to, the song came through, the song of the plant came through during her diet, and she would just have to sing the song post-diet to create an orgasmic energy. How do you say, when you're gearing up for the sexual intercourse? Foreplay. That's right, foreplay. So she actually, this ally was her aphrodisiac. They brought this spirit in with them for their lovemaking. Okay, so that's one. There were others that were like, wait, this is way too messy. I don't know what I'm doing. And then they didn't have sexual relations for years afterwards. And so they didn't engage in sexuality. So all over the spectrum.
Was it all the same plant?
No, these women were dieting different plants. So there was.
Was it the same guide or teacher that
thank you.
facilitated this?
So yes, same lineage, same teacher holding the diets. So there was some kind of control method in there.
How many subjects were there again?
There were 7. It was a heuristic study, if anyone likes research. Yeah.
Maybe you already answered this, but what does the diet consist of? I mean, do you only eat that plant, or do you eat that plant plus rice, or
Oh yeah.
only eat that
Oh
plant?
yeah, no. So drinking the plants every day, and it's in liquid form, and it depends on which plant you're dieting. So the amount will depend on the plant and the dieter. And you can eat foods. It's just there's a list of do not eat. And traditionally, it was plantain, fish. Yeah, but social dieting is different here in North America. So I wanted to really look at what's going on here amongst us and what are we learning.
Do you know if there's any universities that are actually doing studies like this, or
No,
no?
Yeah.
I think what?
You here.
I don't know if I can say this, but I think I can. I think this is the first academic study on plant diets, and this is, I don't know what. Well, so I did ask the curanderos, ayahuasqueros in South America, both in the Santo Daime and Vegetalismo. Where is this information? And there's 2 things that became clear. One was that, as if they were going to hand everything over to me, a Westerner, there's a very special relationship between teacher and student, and that takes years to cultivate. And so, both with the plant and the human. So now that I'm more immersed with the teacher I'm connected with, there is more information coming through. The more diets you have, there's more information coming through. So they're not doing this kind of research. Of course
Right,
they
and
wouldn't,
maybe
right?
it's
Why
not
would
even
they?
the place for it. I don't know.
Yeah, and then and some people said, no, this is not our way.
Right.
However, I mean, there are various studies in South America by research. I mean, there's excellent information there from researchers, and there's some that will be at MAPS. But I don't know why they're not focusing on plant diets. It's ayahuasca most of the time. Yeah.
One more question.
I think it's the nature of the research, right? Just, being in the world of research is that they don't focus not that nobody wants to, it's just that in order to get the approval, you have to have a certain amount of controls, and then you get all, whatever it may be, and there's that to improve and everything.
Yeah, that's definitely possible. And this is an area that I would love to explore further, especially in North America. So what are the possibilities for dieting local plants so that we can learn and setting up that container and supporting each other, because as we all know, it can be a little odd. I forgot to, there was one dream that I had during the diet where this, and it was a beautiful picture I had, but it was, has anyone seen the angel, with the wings, and they're, what are they called when they have both sexes?
Hermaphrodites?
Yeah, thank you. So this being came into my dream and was having sex with my partner, and I got to just watch in fascination. I mean, how amazing is that we get to be connected in that way? So why did I share that? I think I think it was the plant diets that so I'm really would love to encourage people to be connected to their local plants and the energies, the local spirits, and then how do we integrate, and it's amazing that ERIE has so much support in that area, how do we integrate that into our everyday life and relationships? And I feel it's possible. I feel it's possible, and I feel like we can research it. Here. Yeah.
So ayahuasca is the product of two different plants that work together. Any of the other plant diets, would they combinations
Yes,
in the same way?
you can have combinations. There's a range, and so the vegetalista will scan you. And when I went down, he asked me, what do you want, a healing diet or a pregnancy diet? I said healing diet, because so much to clear. And so, and I said, oh yeah, and throw in some dreamtime exploration. So that's why I had 3, which is wonderful, and it can make it tricky. Generally, I feel like when you're first starting, you'll have one plant ILI, and I'm learning that you have one plant that you can diet for 3 years. So I dieted one plant, and then I had a year off, and then another year diet. And the layers upon layers of learning is incredible. Just one plant. It's amazing. Thank you.